Om Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you very much for joining us today. We can continue with the Bhagavatam. So, we're on chapter 9 of the first canto, and we can recite these invocation prayers. So, Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jivan Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudini Yatnastaprayashu Padreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatam Uttam Shloke Bhagavati Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So, okay. Now, thank you very much for the darshan, Nina. Very beautiful as always. Thank you.
All Krishna's mercy, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
So the chapter is called The Passing Away of Bhishma Dev in the presence of Lord Shri Krishna. How fortunate a soul he is. So you may begin, Anandalila.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Chapter 9, the passing away of Bhishma Deva in the presence of Lord Krishna. Sutta uvacha iti bhita prajadrohat sarvadharma vivitsaya tato vinasanam pragat yatra deva vratopada.
Sutta Goswami said, being afraid of having killed so many subjects on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Maharaj Yudhishthir went to the scene of the massacre. There, Bhishma Dev was lying on a bed of arrows, about to pass away.
Tada te bhratarah sarve tadasvai swarna bhushitai anvagachan rather vipra vyasadhomyadayastatha.
At that time, all his brothers followed him on beautiful chariots drawn by first-class horses decorated with gold ornaments. With them were Vyasa and Rishis like Dhumya, the learned priest of the Pandavas, and others.
Bhagavan api vriprarse rathena sadhananjayaha satir vyarochata nirpaha uvera iva guhyakai.
O sage amongst the Brahmins, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, also followed, seated on a chariot with Arjuna. Thus, King Yudhishthir appeared very aristocratic, like Kuvera surrounded by his companions, the Guhyakas.
Drishtavani patitam bhumo divaschutam nivamaram pranemuh pandava bhishmam sanugah saha chakrina.
Seeing him, Bhishma, lying on the ground like a demigod fallen from the sky, the Pandav, King Yudhishthir, along with his younger brothers and Lord Krishna, bowed down before him.
Tatra brahmarsayah sarve devarsayascha sattama rajarsayascha tatrasan drastum bharata pungavam.
Just to see the chief of the descendants of King Bharat, Bhishma, all the great souls in the universe, namely the rishis amongst the demigods, Brahmins and kings, all situated in the qualities of goodness, were assembled there.
पर्वतो नारदो धौम्यो भगवान् पादरायणः बृहतस्वो भरद्वाजः सशिशो रेणुकासुतः वसिष्ठ इन्द्रप्रमदस्तित्रो गृत्समदोषितः कक्षिवान् गौतमोऽत्रिश्च कौशिकोऽथ सुदर्शनः.
All the sages like Parvata Muni, Narad, Dhumya, Vyasa, and the incarnation of God, Brihadashva, Bharadwaj, and Parshuram, and disciples, Vashishta, Indra Pramada, Trit, Gritsamad, Ashishta, Asita, Kakshivan, Gautama, Atri, Kaushika, and Sudarshan were present.
Well done. Quite a few names there, quite difficult names as well. Well done for reciting them. Thank you. So first 7 verses. With Lord Krishna, Yudhishthira went to the scene of the battle of Kurukshetra. There Bhishma was lying on the bed, made of arrows, about to pass away. Seeing Bhishma lying on the ground like a fallen demigod from the sky, Yudhishthira, his brothers, and Krishna bowed down before him. Many great sages from all the universe also arrived there to see the departure of Bhishma, who greeted them all. This was quite a huge occasion because Bhishma had this wonderful boon from his father that he could leave when he wanted to. He had this boon that he could depart, die at his own choosing. And he waited until the sun came to the northern hemisphere. And he waited for Krishna to be before him, which is such an incredible blessing. So we can continue.
Anye cha munayo brahman brahmaratadayo mala sishye rupeta ajagmuhu kashyapangira sadayaha.
And many others like Shukadev Goswami and other purified souls, Kashyap and Angirasa and others, all accompanied by their respective disciples, arrived there.
Tan samitan mahabhagan upalabhya vasutamaha pujayamasa dharmagno deshakala vibhagavid.
Bhishmadeva, who was the best among the 8 Vasus, received and welcomed all the great and powerful rishis who were assembled there, for he knew perfectly all the religious principles according to time and
place.
Krishnam cha tat prabhavagya ashinam jagatishwaram hirdistham pujayamasa mayayopata vigraham.
Lord Sri Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, yet he manifests his transcendental form by his eternal potency. This very Lord was sitting before Bhishmadev, and since Bhishmadev knew of his glories, he worshipped him duly.
Panduputranupasenan prasraya prema sangatan abhyachastanuragāsre andhibhutena chakshusha.
The sons of Maharaj Pandu were sitting silently nearby, overtaken with affection for the dying grandfather. Seeing this, Bhishma Dev congratulated them with feeling. There were tears of ecstasy in his eyes, for he was overwhelmed by love and affection.
Aho kashtam aho jnanyam yad yugam dharma nandanaha jivitum narhatha klishtam vipradharma chutasrayaha.
Bhishma Dev said, "Oh, what terrible sufferings and what terrible injustices you good souls suffer for being the sons of religion personified. You did not deserve to remain alive under those tribulations, yet you are protected by the Brahmins, God and religion."
Samsthite tirathe pando prithabala prajavaduhu yushmat krite bahun kleshan praptato kavati muhu.
As far as my daughter-in-law Kunti is concerned, upon the great General Bandu's death, she became a widow with many children, and therefore she suffered greatly. And when you were grown up, she suffered a great deal, also because of your actions.
Sarvam kala kritam manye bhavatam cha yada priyam sapalo yadvase loko vayoriva ghanavalihi.
In my opinion, this is all due to inevitable time, under whose control everyone in every planet is carried, just as the clouds are carried by wind.
Yatra dharma suto raja gadapane rikodaraha Krishno stri gandhivam chapam suhit krishnastato vipat.
Oh, how wonderful is the influence of inevitable time. It is irreversible. Otherwise, how can there be reverses in the presence of King Yudhishthir, the son of the demigod controlling religion? Bhim, the great fighter with a club, the great bowman Arjun with his mighty weapon Gandhiv, and above all the Lord and directly well-wisher of the Pandavas.
Very nicely read. Good.
Nahi asya karhe chidrajan puman veda vidhitsitam yad vijigyasaya yukta muhyanti kavayopihi.
O King, no one can know the plan of the Lord Shri Krishna, even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively. They are bewildered.
Indeed, very interesting part of Bhagavatam. So, just going back a little. This is the scene, extraordinary scene, where Bhishma is lying on this bed of arrows. There is Yudhishthir at his side, and Krishna, and then Arjun, all of these great warriors around him, and the sages appeared from all over the world, all over the universe. So Bhishma tearfully spoke to Yudhishthir that even though they were great souls, they were sons of religion, right? Dharmaraj is Yudhishthir himself. And even though Krishna the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their well-wisher, was present, still they had to suffer so many injustices. No one can know the plan of Krishna, even though philosophers inquire exhaustively. So we have to accept that the inconceivable plan of the Lord, we have to accept the inconceivable plan of the Lord. So he advised the head of state and to take care of his subjects. So that's the next bit. But this point is really important, that we don't know what life will bring to us. We don't know the plan of the Lord. We have our plans. And it's said that if you want to make Krishna laugh, tell him your plans. He'll have a good laugh because he's got his own plans. But as long as we are tuned in to the Supreme Lord, not worried about any way that, any direction that life takes us, let it be. As long as we are fixed in his seva, we're fixed in remembering the Lord, and we don't forget that. That's the most important thing. I remember my spiritual master about 30 years ago, a bit more than that. He had a quadruple operation, a quadruple bypass, which was pretty intense. And normally when somebody goes through a situation like that, then they wouldn't be doing too much for the rest of their life. But amazingly, he started really going around the world after having the quadruple bypass, and preaching in South Africa, Mauritius, US, everywhere, India. And who would have thought it? You wouldn't expect him to, increase the level of bhakti. But this is the nature of the devotees. When they see reverses coming in their lives, they take more shelter of the Lord. They become completely engrossed in serving the Supreme Lord. Whether they're happy or they're not happy, they're always serving the Supreme Lord. So that is a really fantastic example. And the Pandavas are similarly examples of this situation. When they were happy, they would remember Krishna. When they were unhappy, they'd remember Krishna. So we don't know where we're going to end up, and we shouldn't worry too much, because everything that's in our situation at the moment is temporary. It's not going to last forever, because we are in this material world. So let's not be too attached. Even Mother Kunti said to Krishna, "Let me not be attached to my sons." They were devotees of the Lord, but she didn't want any attachment to them. Why? Because it's all temporary. Our only permanent connection is with the Supreme Lord. So that's what we focus on. No matter what comes our way, let it be. Let it be. We accept it, but we don't forget our connection with the Supreme Lord. That's the most important thing. So this is really powerful statements by Bhishma. So we can continue.
Yasmadidam devatantram vyavasya bharatarsabha tasyanu vihito natha natha pahi praja prabho.
O best among the descendants of Bharat, Yudhishthir, I maintain, therefore, that all this is within the plan of the Lord. Accepting the inconceivable plan of the Lord, you must follow it. You are now the appointed administrative head, and, my lord, you should now take care of those subjects who are now rendered helpless.
Esha vai Bhagavan Shakshat Adyo Narayanah Puman मोहयन् मायया लोकं बुधश्चरवति वृष्णिषु.
This Sri Krishna is no other than the inconceivable, original personality of Godhead. He is the first Narayan, the supreme enjoyer, but he is moving amongst the descendants of King Vrishni, just like one of us, and he is bewildering us with the self-created energy.
Asyanubhavam Bhagavan Vedaguhyatamam Shivaha Devarshir Naradaha Shakshat Bhagavan Kapilunripa.
O King, Lord Shiva, Narad, the sage among the demigods, and Kapil, the incarnation of the Godhead, all know very confidently about his glories through direct contact.
Yammanyasye matuleyam priyam mitram suhirtamam akaroh sachivam dutam sohuridad atha sarathim.
O King, that personality whom, out of ignorance only, you thought to be your maternal cousin, your very dear friend, well-wisher, counselor, messenger, benefactor, etc., is that very personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna.
Sarvatmanah samadrisho hi advayasyanahan kritehe tatkritam mati vaishamyam niravadyasya na kvachit.
Being the absolute personality of Godhead, he is represent in everyone's heart. He is present in everyone's heart. He is equally kind to everyone, and he is free from the false ego of differentiation. Therefore, whatever he does is free from material inebriety.
Beauty. Good.
He is equibalanced.
Wonderful.
Tathapi ekanta bhaktesu pasya bhupanukampitam yanme sumstya jatah sakshat Krishno darshanamagataha.
Yet, despite his being equally kind to everyone, he has graciously come before me while I am ending my life, for I am his unflinching servitor.
Well done. Well read.
Thank you.
So, Lord Bhishma, he appreciates Krishna. Krishna is no other than the inconceivable original personality of Godhead, and is the first Narayan, the supreme enjoyer. Out of ignorance, he is accepted as material cousin or your very dear friend, well-wisher, counselor, messenger, benefactor, etc. But he is a supreme personality who releases the devotee from bondage at the time of death. And Bhishma is very nicely appreciating him. Please kindly await me at the moment when I leave this body. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also explains that person, what happens at the time of death is so important. That's chapter 8, which is what we're doing hopefully on Sunday. If one remembers Krishna at the time of death, then one will reach the Supreme Lord. If one remembers one's family members at the time of death, we'll stay here in this world. And generally what happens is that a husband will remember the wife. So in his next life, he'll become a woman. And a wife will remember the husband. And in her next life, she'll become a man. This is how karma works, generally speaking, just a very broad generalization. So we keep swapping over like that. But if we can remember the Supreme Lord at the end of our life, then we'll go to the Supreme Lord. And Bhishma Pitaji was very, very fortunate because he had Krishna right in front of him at the time he died.
Bhaktya Veshyamano Yasmin Vachayan Nama Kirtayan Tyajan Kalevaram Yogi Muchyate Kama Karma Bhihi.
The personality of Godhead, who appears in the mind of the devotee by attentive devotion and meditation and by chanting the holy name, releases the devotee from the bondage of fruitive activities at the time of his quitting material body.
Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Parikshatam Kadevaram Yavadidam Mumiyaham Prashannaha Saruna Lojano Lashan Mukham Bhujo Dhyana Pathas Chaturbujaha.
May my Lord, who is full-handed and beautifully decorated lotus face, with eyes as red as the rising sun, is smiling, kindly awake me at that moment when I quit this material body.
Sutta Uvacha Yudhishthirastat Akarnya Sayanam Sarapanjare Apirchad Vividhan Dharman Rishinam Chanusranvatam.
Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Yudhishthir, after hearing Bhishmadev speak in the appealing tone, asked him, in the presence of all the great rishis, about the essential principles of various religious duties.
Purusha Swabhava Vihitan Yatha Varnam Yathasramam Vairagya Ragupadibhyam Amnato Bhayalakshanan.
At Maharaj Yudhishthir's inquiry, Bhishmadev first defined all the classifications of castes and orders of life in terms of individual qualifications. Then he systematically, in twofold divisions, described counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment.
Well done.
Dana Dharman Raja Dharman Moksha Dharman Vibhagasaha Sri Dharman Bhagavad Dharman Samasa Vyasa Yogataha.
He then explained by divisions acts of charity, the pragmatic activities of a king, and activities for salvation. Then he described the duties of women and devotees, both briefly and extensively.
Well done. Very good. Okay, so this part, we take a little pause. Bhishma defines the castes and the orders of life. So this is the Varnashram system. That is the brahmachari, the grahastha, householder, vanaprastha, sannyas, and also the social orders, the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, the Vaishya, and the Shudras. So this is how society is set up in order to function And Bhishma explained this in terms of the individual's qualifications. So it's not that when one is born in a family of Brahmin, then one is automatically a Brahmin. Actually, one has to act like a Brahmin in order to become a Brahmin. So one may be born in the family of Shudras, but if one's behavior is that of a Brahmin, then he's regarded to be a Brahmin. He explains the act of charity, activities of a king, activities for salvation, duties of women and devotees. Then the next bit, which we'll come to, he stopped speaking. He withdrew his mind. He fixed his eyes upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who stood before him. By pure meditation, looking at Krishna, he at once was freed from all material inauspiciousness and was relieved of all bodily pains. And he prayed to the Lord as follows. So,
Dharmartha kama mokshamscha sahopayan yatha mune nanakhyane tihasesu varnayamasa tadvavit.
Then he described the occupational duties of different orders and statuses of life, citing instances from history, for he was himself well acquainted with the truth.
Dharmam pravadatastasya sakalaha pratyupastitaha yo yoginas chandramrityor vanchitastu tarayanaha.
While Bhishma Dev was describing occupational duties, the sun's course ran into the northern hemisphere. This period is desired by mystics who die at their will.
Tadopasamritya gira sahasrani vimukta sangam manadi purushe Krishne lasatpita pate chaturbuje purasthite milita drigvya dharaya.
Thereupon, the man who spoke on different subjects with thousands of meanings and who fought on thousands of battlefields and protected thousands of men stopped speaking and, being completely freed from all bondage, withdrew his mind from everything else and fixed his wide-open eyes on the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who stood before him four-handed, dressed in yellow garments that glittered and shined.
Vishuddhaya dharanaya hata subhas tadikshayeva sugata yudhashramaha nivrita sarvendriya vritti vibramas tustavajanyam visarjan janardanam.
By pure meditation, looking at Lord Sri Krishna, he at once was freed from all material inauspiciousness and was relieved of all bodily pains caused by the arrow wounds. Thus, all the external activities of his senses at once stopped, and he prayed transcendentally to the controller of all living beings while quitting his material body.
Shri Bhishma Uvacha Iti Matirupa Kalpita Vritrishna Bhagavati Sadvata Pungave Vibhumi Swasukham Upagate Kvachid Vihurtum Prakritim upeyusi yadbhava pravaha.
Bhishmadev said, "Let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing, which was so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties, in all the powerful Lord Sri Krishna. He is always self-satisfied, but sometimes, being the leader of the devotees, he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending to the material world. Although from him the material world is created, only the material world is created."
Good, good.
Tribhuvana kamanam tamalavernam Ravikara Gauravarambaram Dadhani Vapuralakka Kulavritananamjam Vijaya Sakhiratirashtumena Vadya.
Sri Krishna is the intimate friend of Arjuna. He has appeared on this earth in his transcendental body, which resembles the bluish color of the Tamala tree. His body attracts everyone in 3 planetary systems, upper, middle, and lower. May his glittering yellow dress and his lotus face covered with paintings of sandalwood pulp be the object of my attraction, and may I not desire fruitive results.
Yudhi turagarajo vidhum ravishva Kacha lulita shrama vari alankritasye Mama nishita sharer vibhidyamana Tvachi vilashat kavachistu Krishna Atma.
On the battlefield, where Sri Krishna attended Arjuna out of friendship, the flowing hair of Lord Krishna turned ashen due to the dust raised by the hooves of horses, and because of his labor, beads of sweat wetted his face. All these decorations, intensified by the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows, were enjoyed by him. Let my mind thus go unto Sri Krishna.
Sapadi sakhi vacho nisamya madhye Nija parayor balayoratham nivesya Sthitavati para sainikayorakshna Hitavati partha sakheratir mamastu.
In obedience to the command of his friend, Lord Sri Krishna entered the arena of the battlefield of Kurukshetra between the soldiers of Arjuna and Duryodhana, and while there he shortened the lifespans of the opposite party by his merciful glance. This was done simply by his looking at the enemy. Let my mind be fixed upon that Krishna.
Vyavahita pritana mukham niriksha Swajana vadhad vimukhasya dosa buddhya Kumatim naharadatma vidyayayas Charanarathi paramasya tasya mestu.
When Arjuna was seemingly polluted by ignorance upon observing the soldiers and commanders before him on the battlefield, the Lord eradicated his ignorance by delivering transcendental knowledge. May his lotus feet always remain the object of my attraction.
स्वनिगममपाहाय मत्प्रतिज्ञां ऋतमधिकर्तुं नवप्लुतोरथस्थः धृतरथचरणो ध्यायाचलाद्गुर् हरिरिव हन्तुं निभं गतोत्तर्यः.
Fulfilling my vow and sacrificing his own promise, he got down from the chariot, took up its wheel, and ran towards me hurriedly, just as a lion goes to kill an elephant. He even dropped his outer garment on the way.
सीता विशिखहतो विशीर्णधंसाः क्षतज परिप्लुता ततायिनो मे प्रशभम् अभिसासारमद्वधार्थम् स भवतु मे भगवान् गतिर्मुकुन्दः.
May he, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who awards salvation, may be my ultimate destination. On the battlefield, he charged me as if angry because of the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows. His shield was scattered and his body was smeared with blood due to the wounds.
विजयारथकुतुम्भातोत्रे धृतहयरश्मिनि तच्छिरेक्षणीये भगवती रतिरस्तु मे मुमूर्षो यमिह निरीक्ष्य हतागतः स्वरूपम्.
At the moment of death, let my ultimate attraction be to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. I concentrate my mind upon the chariot driver of Arjun, who stood with a whip in his right hand and a bridle rope in his left, who was very careful to give protection to Arjun's chariot by all means. Those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original forms after death.
ललिता गति विलास वागुहास प्रणय निरीक्षण कल्पितो रुमानाः कृतं अनुकृत वच्चा उन्मदान्ताः प्रकृतिं मगन् किल यस्य गोपवध्वः.
Let my mind be fixed upon Lord Sri Krishna, whose motions and smiles of love attracted the damsels of Vrajatam, the gopis. The damsels imitated the characteristic movement of the Lord after his disappearance from the Ras dance.
मुनिगणनृपा वर्यशङ्कुलेन्तः सदसि युधिष्ठिरा राजसूय ईशाम् अर्हणमुपपेदईक्षानीयो मम दृशि गोचरा एषा वीरात्मा.
Rajsurya sacrifice performed by Maharaj Yudhishthir, there was the greatest assembly of all the elite men of the world, the royal and learnt orders, and in that great assembly, Lord Sri Krishna was worshipped by one and all as the most exalted personality of Godhead. This happened during my presence, and I remembered the incident in order to keep my mind upon the Lord.
So this Bhishma is remembering of all the wonderful pastimes that took place of Lord Krishna. And this is a fantastic example to us as well. Of course, these pastimes happened right in front of Lord Bhishmadev, so he can vividly remember them. But because we are constantly reading and also reciting these pastimes, they should come to our minds as well on a regular basis. And therefore, at the time of death, we will also be able to recall these pastimes of Krishna, which are very important.
Tammimam mahammajam sharirabhajam hirdi dhishtitam atma kalpitanam pratidrishyam eva naikatharkamekam samadhi gatosmi vidhuta bedhamoha.
Now I can meditate with full concentration upon that one Lord, Sri Krishna, now present before me, because now I have transcended the misconceptions of duality in regard to his presence in everyone's heart. Even in the hearts of the mental speculators, he is in everyone's heart. The sun may be perceived differently, but the sun is one.
Very, very good.
Sutta uvacha Krishna evam bhagavati manovagdrishti vrittibhihi atmani atmanam avesha sontaha swasa uparamat.
Sutta Goswami said, thus Bhishmadev merged himself in the Supersoul, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with his mind, speech, sight, and actions, and thus he became silent, and his breathing
Stopped.
yeah.
Sampadyamanam agyaya Bhishmam brahmani nishkale sarve bhabhuvuste tushnim vayam sivadinachaye.
Knowing that Bhishmadev had merged into the unlimited eternity of the Supreme Absolute, all present there became silent like birds at the end of the day.
Tatra dundhu bhayo nidur deva manava vaditaha sasamsuhu sadhavo ragyam khatpetuh pushpa vrishtayaha.
Thereafter, both men and demigods sounded drums in honor, and the honest royal order commenced demonstrations of honor and respect, and from the sky fell showers of flowers.
Tasya nirharanadini samparitasya bhargava yudhishthiraha karayitva muhurtam dukkhito bhavat.
O descendant of Bhrigu, Sonak, after performing funeral rituals for the dead body of Bhishmadev, Maharaj Yudhishthir was momentarily overtaken with grief.
Tustu vurmonayorhistaha Krishnam tadguhya namabhihi tataste Krishna hirdayaha swasraman prayayuh punaha.
All the great sages then glorified Lord Sri Krishna, who was present there, by confidential Vedic hymns. Then all of them returned to their respective hermitages, bearing always Lord Krishna within their heart.
Tato yudhishthiro gadva saha Krishno gajahavayam pitaram santvayam asa gandharim cha tapasvinim.
Thereafter, Maharaj Yudhishthir at once went to his capital, Hastinapur, accompanied by Lord Sri Krishna, and there he consoled his uncle and aunt, Gandhari, who was an ascetic.
Very good.
Pitra chanumato raja vasudevānumoditaha chakara rajam dharmena pitra paitamaham vibhuhu. Hare Krishna.
Well done.
After this, the great religious king, Maharaj Yudhishthir, executed the royal power in the kingdom, strictly according to the codes of royal principles approved by his uncle and confirmed by Lord Sri Krishna.
Well done, both of you. This was quite a long, in fact, a very long chapter. And in the Leela, you recited it so beautifully. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
And I don't know many 9-year-olds who have recited the whole Bhagavatam chapter. I don't know any actually, apart from one, Shaivi.
Jai.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Well done, Shaivi. Impressive, very impressive. So congratulations to you and your wonderful parents. This is so good, so encouraging. So these last fantastic meditation by Bhishma, and essentially he's invested his thinking, feeling, willing, which for so long were engaged in different subject matters and occupational duties. Now they're all engaged in remembering or worshipping the all-powerful Lord Krishna. Previously, he was looking after the kingdom of Hastinapur, so he had so many things to do. So maybe he wasn't fully focused on Krishna, but now he's completely devoted. His focus, his thinking, feeling, and willing onto Krishna. He is, Vishwanath says, my ultimate destination. And one thing he remembered many things, but one thing that sticks out for me is on the battlefield. Vishwadev remembers, he charged me as if angry. At this moment of my death, he says, let my ultimate attraction be to Krishna. So this is a very transcendental moment. Lord Krishna came into this battlefield on the basis that he promised that he will not fight, he will not raise a weapon. He made a promise. I will remain completely neutral in the sense that I will not fight. I will not engage myself in the fighting. And Duryodhan was given the army who would fight, but Krishna was not to fight. And Arjun chose Krishna, even though he was going to fight. But this is the beauty of the Lord. This is one of his what they call that, one of his endearing factors, that he is willing to break his own promise. He's willing to subject himself to some mischievous talk by breaking his own promise in order to fulfill the promise of the devotee. The Lord regards the promise of the devotee greater than his own promise. This is why Krishna is regarded to be the most enchanting of all, the greatest Supreme Personality of Godhead. He will do anything for his devotee, anything, including breaking his own promise. So Bhishma had vowed, I will make you, Vasudev, pick up a weapon. I will make you do that. So that's what he did. Bhishma fought like a lion against Arjun. And when Krishna was seeing that Arjun was not putting his best effort, he picked up the wheel of a chariot and he ran towards Bhishma in order to punish Bhishma. And Bhishma, he had longed to see this sight of Krishna chasing him or coming towards him to fight with him. He had yearned for that. And finally, that moment had come and Bhishma laid down his weapons and he was just admiring Krishna, looking at him with incredible vision that my Lord is now coming towards me with the chariot wheel. Here, my Lord, I am ready to give up my life on at this very moment for you. So this is really a very, very powerful pastime. Some commentators will say, hey, Krishna broke his promise. Yes, Krishna is happy to break his promise, to fulfill the desire of his devotee. He'll do anything, including breaking his own promise. So at that moment, Arjun, he pleaded with the Lord. If you look, he's grabbing the Lord around the waist, stopping him. He's dragged by the Lord because the Lord's motion was so fast. Arjun was dragged along. No, my Lord, you made a promise. Please don't. Please put that weapon. Please put the weapon down. And Krishna, of course, did so. But he at the same time fulfilled the desire of Bhishma. This was really a fantastic pastime, really truly amazing pastime. So we wanted to conclude at that point. And if there's any comments, anybody like to share anything or any questions, please feel free to do so. It's a wonderful chapter, absolutely glorious chapter of the Bhagavatam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Purnamati.
Prabhuji, who are the Vasus and who are the 8 Vasus?
Who are the 8 Vasus? They were at one point, who were they? They were, I think something like, they were laughing at, they were the sons of Maricha. And some incident took place with Lord Brahma and they were laughing and they were cursed to come to earth. And one of the Vasus, 8 Vasus, that's right. They were cursed to come to earth and suffer for a short period of time. And the Vasus were, I think, were they not killed one by one in order to stop them from suffering too much in this world? I can't remember the exact pastime, but they were cursed to come to this earth and they were freed from that curse very quickly. They're demigods. They are demigods, I think. And they were cursed because they were a little insulting to somebody. Can't remember the exact details.
So is Bhishma Pitama
yes.
a Vasu?
Yes, and he was the leader of the Vasus.
Ah.
And because he was the one who was leading them, he was said that he would suffer extra because so he would have a prolonged life in this world to suffer. And if you look at Bhishma Dev's life, it's frankly speaking full of suffering. He went through so much difficulties. Mentally, physically, he was the most powerful, but mentally, he was completely finished.
True.
So many problems. So he had to suffer a lot. But of course, he achieved the greatest gain because he had Lord Krishna at his side when he was dying. very fortunate personality. Great soul, great soul. Thank you for asking.
Prabhu, is a Vishnu's another 7 brothers before that, Gangaputra. They are Vasu. They are 7
Yeah,
and
also.
Vishnu, they 1. This is the 8.
Yeah, but I think they're yes, that's correct. They are a little different. I can't remember the difference between the two, but they are a little different. Because these Vasus were the ones, Shantanu and
Yeah.
Satyavati's children, and one by one Ganga killed them. And then we have the other set, which is, and they actually were not killed. They were taken by Mahavishnu, or they were taken by somebody. The ones who Lord Krishna's siblings. Because when Vasudeva and Devaki, when Krishna freed them, Devaki said to Krishna, I'd like my children back. So Krishna went and brought them back to Devaki and Vasudeva. So this was the amazing thing about Lord Krishna and his siblings. They all came and they stayed with Vasudeva and Devaki. But a little bit different pastime there. Thank you for remembering, Mr. Saha. Very good. Okay, if there's nothing else, we can close the session today. Thank you very much for joining. It was really nice.